Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a little bit of heat embossing. I have a piece of craft cardstock that measures 5.5 by 4 inches, and I'm taking my powder bag and just wiping over that completely because I'm going to be heat embossing. So I have this stamp set from Wplus9, and I'm going to take this balloon image and just place it on my clear acrylic block, and then I'm going to ink it up with the Versamark ink. This is the clear sticky ink that you use for heat embossing because, like I said, I'm going to be heat embossing my entire background. So I'm just going to go ahead and randomly stamp these balloons all over my background. I'm not doing really any rhyme or reason, I'm just trying to fit as many of them in as I can. And I'm turning my stamp different ways so that all of the balloons are facing a different direction. So I'm just inking that stamp up, making sure that there's plenty of Versamark on there so that a whole bunch of embossing powder will stick on there and there won't be any spaces. And then I'm just going ahead and covering it with my Hero Arts white embossing powder. Just making sure I cover all of those little balloon images. And then I can go ahead and heat emboss that with my heat tool to make sure that all of the embossing powder is completely melted. So then I'm going to go ahead and color this in with my colored pencils. This is a technique I haven't used in quite a while, so I decided to pull those out and use them. So I'm using the Prismacolor colored pencils, and I have the 24 count. And I'm just coloring or blending each of these colored pencils into one another. So you can see I started with the orange, and then I went in with the yellow, and then I just overlapped them slightly so that they would blend into each other. I'm not using any water or any baby oil or anything like that to blend them. I'm just using the colored pencils themselves. So it's a really easy technique, and I love these colored pencils because they're super bold color, especially on the craft cardstock. So I'm coloring this in with the same colors. I'm going to use the same colors for a couple of different balloons. So there's going to be a couple of different shades and colors of balloons on my card. I tend to start with the lightest color when I'm doing this, but you can work any way that you would like. So my next color combination that I'm choosing, I'm using this pink, and I'm coloring in the entire balloon with the pink. And then I'm going to take the purple and color in just in some of the edges. So I'm also coloring in the balloons different ways. The orange and yellow, I just did one of each, and then the purple and pink, I'm doing a little bit of purple on each side. So you can do it whichever way you prefer. But I'm just blending these into one another, and the key to blending is just to keep adding more and more of each color. You just have to blend them into one another. And I do a little bit darker on the edges, and then once I reach the other color, I kind of lighten up with my pencil just so that it's easier to blend. My next color combination, I'm using green and blue. So I'm just coloring in the entire balloon with green and then adding in a little bit of the blue colored pencil. And then I'll go back in with the green and just make sure that those colors are blended together really well. And then I'm just going to go ahead and choose another balloon to color in. Like I said, I'm coloring each balloon, each color combination on 2 to 3 different balloons. I just want to make sure that I have a lot of color on my background and many different color combinations. So I'm just blending those blue and greens together. Like I said, you just have to add more and more of each color to make them blend. And then my final color combination is this orangey red color. I'm just coloring in the entire balloon with that color. And then I'm going in with a darker red color and adding a little bit of that onto half of the balloon. And then I'll go ahead and take my previous color and blend those together. These are the Artist Prismacolor pencils, but I'm sure you could probably do this with Crayolas, so you could do it with just cheap colored pencils. These are a little bit better and more pigmented though, so you'll just have to play around with it and see what your results look like. Alright, so next I'm going to stamp my little image. I'm using one of the elephants from the same stamp set. And I'm also stamping this with the Versamark ink on the Coordinations 110-pound cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover that with the American Crafts Zing embossing powder. This is the charcoal color. And then I'll go ahead and heat emboss that image as well. So for this one, I'm not going to be coloring it in with my regular colored pencils. These are actually watercolored pencils. So I'm using two different types of colored pencils on this card. And I'm taking my gray and just coloring in the entire elephant with that color. So it's a really simple watercolor technique here. And the thing you want to remember is you cannot use the water with just regular colored pencils. You have to use the watercolored pencils because it's not going to work with regular colored pencils. So I'm taking my water brush and just blending that color out. It helps smooth it out so that you don't get the pencil lines, and it just makes it look like an even color. And then I'm going in and adding little bits of darker areas to that elephant, and then I'll take my water brush and blend that out once again. And then I'm going to find my pink and add a little bit of pink into the ears and then onto the elephant's cheeks. And then I'll just blend that once again with my water brush. Okay, so now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I have a piece of vellum, and I'm going to heat emboss one more thing on this card. I'm going to ink that up with my Versamark ink, and then stamp that right onto the vellum. And the embossing powder I'm going to use for this one is the Ranger Liquid Platinum. So I'll just go ahead and cover that completely, and then I'll heat emboss that as well. Alright, so I'm going to add my craft piece onto a white A2 size card base. And then I will stick that down right into the middle, so there's going to be white on each edge of my card base. And then to attach my sentiment piece, I'm using the Cool Tack foam squares. These are clear foam squares, and they work well for vellum. I always like to add them behind the sentiment because they still do show through a little bit. There's not really any adhesive that's not going to show through vellum a little bit. All of them pretty much do that I have tried. So I just removed the backings and then stuck that down onto my card. And then to attach the elephant, I'm using the large foam squares from Best Creation. And then I'm going to stick that in that open area right next to the sentiment. So my final step, I'm going to add some sequins. This is the Snowflake mix from Mint Owl Studio. I'm just randomly scattering these onto my card. There's gray, white, and clear sequins in this mix. So I'm going to use all of those and just randomly add them. And then I will go ahead and adhere them down with the multi-medium matte. And I just squirt a little bit and then press each sequin down into the adhesive. This is a really strong adhesive and it holds the sequins really well onto your card. And then that is my finished card for today. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. We'll try blending with your colored pencils. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you back here next time. Bye everyone!